From the fight between Francis and Fury finally getting announced, to fans wondering whether Ngannou has it in him to conquer the sport of boxing too, here's what we know about the Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury fight. It looks like the fight's just about ready to go to the press. In one corner, we have a man whose punches hit as hard as a minivan, and standing opposite him is a dude who just can't get knocked out. The boxing world has been on fire since the day Francis Ngannou announced his entry into the sport. He's been talking about facing off against the best in the sport, and it looks like that's finally about to happen, thanks to the announcement of his fight against Tyson Fury. As things stand right now, Fury is probably the best heavyweight in the world right now, so Ngannou's definitely kicking his boxing career off right. This is basically McGregor versus Mayweather all over again, except both dudes are 100 pounds heavier. Most of the details about the fight have been finalized, with just a few hiccups here and there. For example, we still don't know how many rounds these two plan to beat each other up for. Though with the speed at which news about this fight is coming out, it probably won't be long before everything's settled, and we're all sitting ringside waiting to see which big man can take home the win. While we're still waiting, let's take a look at some details about the fight. The first thing you need to know is that the fight is going to be held in Saudi Arabia. It's going to be taking place on the 28th of October 2023, and boy is it going to be a blast! With the bout being just around the corner, fans are hyped up to see who can take home the win. Fury also said that there will be 3 judges sitting courtside who'll be watching over the fight and will be judging it based on a 10-point system. In case you're confused, that just means that the fight will be fought under proper boxing rules. An important thing to remember is that the WBC won't be getting themselves involved in this bout, so Ngannou won't be taking away any of Tyson's belts anytime soon. They even issued a statement saying that Fury was given special permission to fight in this bout, since he had no mandatory opponent to face off against. Francis talked a bit of smack on his socials as well, saying that he'd been waiting for this day for 3 years. Apparently, his dream had always been to become a boxer, and now that his MMA career was done and dusted, he was free to make that dream come true. He talked about how he wanted to face off against the best of the best, and this was a great way to show the world that he meant business. While we're still on the subject, we might as well take a look at what both these dudes have been saying about each other. You already know how Francis feels about the whole thing. Everybody in the boxing community thinks he's making a big mistake facing off against Fury. We've seen in the past how MMA fighters don't have the best time going from the cage to a boxing ring, but maybe Ngannou will be different. The Cameroonian definitely looks like he's got the skills, and from all the videos he's been posting on social media, it feels like he'll come into the ring, fully prepared to face off against every possibility. Francis also thanked his team at 3.0 Labs for helping make the fight happen. He even went as far as to issue a warning to Fury, saying that he'd better watch out. Because Tyson could dance around him all night, but if Ngannou lands a hit, it'll be all over in the blink of an eye. Fury isn't one to stay quiet either, and he's been making sure the world knows how amped up he is about this fight. Tyson said that even though the Cameroonian is supposed to be the hardest puncher in the world, he'll make sure to give him a taste of his own medicine by throwing a few hard punches of his own at him. Fury talked about how excited he is to head back to the ring, and that it's going to be an awesome feeling once he knocks out the ex-UFC champion and stands in the center of the ring with his arms raised. While both of these guys keep talking smack, you have to wonder how good they actually are. So let's pit them up against one another, starting off with none other than Francis Ngannou. One of the biggest advantages that the Cameroonian has had over his opponents is his striking ability. He's never been a complete mixed martial artist. It's just he's able to defend against his opponents whenever they try to grapple with him, and then pressures them into getting a nice beating with his aggressive fighting style. The thing is, when he faces off against Fury, everything except his boxing will be out of the equation. While that can seem pretty daunting to a lot of fighters, when it comes to Ngannou, it's not that much of a difference, because he's always relied on his boxing skills, even in the octagon. One major weakness that Francis has always had is the fact that even though he hits hard, he doesn't land a lot of significant strikes. One part of the equation is that the few significant strikes he does manage to land, well, They're enough to make sure that the other guy gets his face rearranged. But the problem starts when he starts missing those strikes. He's not the fastest dude on the planet, so when he misses his punches, especially against an opponent like Fury, he'll get punished for it. Which brings us to the question, does Fury have what it takes to deal with Ngannou? Fury is widely considered by many to be one of the best boxers of all time, and definitely the greatest heavyweight this generation has ever seen. I mean, it makes sense. Think about it. Fury's managed to beat everybody worth beating in his division. With just AJ and Alexander Usyk left on the table, if he gets a win over Ngannou, he'll have added another huge name to his resume. The cold hard fact is that Fury isn't someone you want to mess with. He's got amazing footwork, and that's going to be a major factor that'll help decide the outcome of his fight against Ngannou. Ngannou was pretty flat-footed the last time we saw him fight, so there's a good chance that he won't be as nimble against Fury either. This works to Tyson's advantage, because he's been a boxer throughout his career, and causing carnage by dancing around his opponents is something he's great at. Another major part of Fury's game is his ability to literally come back from the dead. As we saw in one of his fights against Wilder, Fury got knocked clean out, and yet he still managed to get back up before the 10 count and take home the win. From what I've seen, there hasn't been any other boxer with as much determination as Fury inside a boxing ring, at least in this era. Which brings us to the final question of the video, which is, can Ngannou actually prove everyone wrong against the Brit? This is one of the biggest questions circulating around the boxing world today. And until the fight happens, people will keep on debating about who has the best shot at winning. Let's take a look at the facts. Fury has way more experience inside a boxing ring than Ngannou. And unless Francis can squeeze in more than 10 fights before he faces Fury, there's just no way he can rival his fight IQ inside the squared circle. Which brings me to my other point. Ngannou doesn't have the greatest fight IQ out there. When things look bad, Francis usually resorts to rushing his opponents and swinging like crazy. Since he's usually heavier and hits harder, he manages to land a shot or two which knocks them out. The thing is, Fury already faced something like this against Wilder, and we all know how that turned out. The fact is that if Francis wants things to be different this time around, he's going to have to work a bit on his efficiency while striking. He can probably block Fury's shots and deal with his footwork, but it'll all come down to how he chooses to throw his punches. As long as he can play things smart, he might have a chance at pulling off what might be the greatest upset in the history of the sport. Of course, we won't know what'll actually happen till the bout actually comes around. Till then, all we can do is sit tight and wait to see what happens. For what it's worth, I feel like whichever way the fight ends up going, the fans are definitely going to go home happy. So from taking a look at whether Ngannou has it in him to conquer the sport of boxing too, to details about the fight finally getting announced, that was what we know about the Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury fight.